All right, everybody, welcome back to another Snapper Chat podcast. Today we've got another top rep in the solar industry, Mr. Maverick Dobson. One thing that I really admire about Maverick, guys, is that he emulates what we talk about all the time, which is knock doors to buy doors. He's been able to become an investor at a pretty young age. I think you're what, Maverick, like 22,
Yeah,
21?
23.
23. And you started when you were like 20 or 21, right? And you were able to go out there, earn lawyer, doctor money, and you were able to invest it into real estate. So we're going to hear your background story. We're going to hear what you're doing to be a top rep in the solar industry. And we're going to hear your vision for the future. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast today. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing really good, and thanks for having me. It's been a crazy last few years, so I've only gotten to talk about it a couple times. I'm happy to be able to come on here and talk about it.
100%. So I'd love to hear just like your origin story, like the your background, how you got into solar, kind of like what motivated you to get into solar sales, like what that story was, and then what it was that drove you every single day to go out there and to become a top rep in the industry your first year.
Yeah, so for a little bit of background on me, I had no one in my family that ever did sales, nothing like that. We're always very big sports oriented family. So I grew up playing every sport you can imagine, but I focused on baseball pretty much. So shortly before I got into solar, I was playing college baseball in Minnesota, and that was like my dream. That was all I ever wanted to do was play college baseball. I didn't even really care about playing professional baseball. I just wanted to prove to myself that I could make it to college to play. So once I did, that was a big accomplishment for me. But then, like a year later, COVID happened. So we all got sent home. They canceled basically classes for the rest of the year. There was nothing we could really do but go home and stay on lockdown. So once that happened, I started looking into the stock market, real estate, a ton of other stuff, thinking that I was still going to go back and play baseball. And then my dad got diagnosed with cancer for the second time during the lockdown. And I had to choose between staying home, working, going to school, and helping take care of my family, or basically leaving everything in the middle of my dad going through all that and then go back and play baseball. Um, because it was so far away from home, and we honestly weren't too sure if my dad was going to live at that point yet, I decided to stay home and just go to school and go to work. So I started working for my mom, doing like basically accounting work. I was just filing paperwork all day, every day. It was a mind-numbing job. But during all those hours, I got to watch videos on real estate, the stock market, arbitration, like different kinds of ways of investing and stuff like that. And it was just super interesting to me. But I didn't really do anything with it because I didn't know where to start. Like, no one in my family really does any of that. They just kind of go to work, save a certain amount of money, and that was it. So I started asking around a little bit about the stock market, and one of the guys that lives like 2 minutes away from my parents' house at the time, he was pretty heavily invested in the stock market, and I told him kind of what my plan was once I had money to do it, and he basically gifted me an account with 10 grand in it and said, do whatever you can, like play around in the stock market with it. So I did, and I got like the standard broker fee for running an account for somebody. So I got like 1% of everything that I did on the account. And I made him a decent amount of money. I mean, it was 10 grand. So it was like even a 40% return is only $4,000. So I think I had like 55% return in 1 year after just kind of day trading a little bit. And once I did that for a year, I kind of just got bored of it. And I was like, I want to step up, go to the next thing. And I started asking about real estate, and the dude that I invested with in the stock market, he didn't really know anything about real estate, but he happened to know Robbie, Robbie Marsh, our now CFO at Nevo. At the time, was just running basically a real estate investment firm where he would take friends and family's money, pool it together, and then go buy apartment buildings, and then cash flow, and eventually, get big lump sums from the investments. And I thought it was awesome. I was like, how do I get in on this? And I called Robbie, and he was like, yeah, let's go to lunch. Never met the dude before in my life. So I was super nervous, and I still had like earrings, Still had long hair. I did not look the part, like to be an investor or to be in door to door or to do anything like that. But he still sat me down and I told him what I wanted to do with real estate and how I wanted to not necessarily buy commercial and multifamily, but single family homes and just start building, my portfolio essentially. And it was kind of a wake up call because he looked me dead in my eyes and goes, "You don't have enough money to do any of that." Like at the time, I had like $7,000 saved up from my job that I was working with my mom. And he looked me in my eyes and said, "You don't have enough money to do that." And I asked him if he knew anyone or anything that would allow me to be able to do that, like what he does, which is commercial and multifamily. And he happened to go to church with Tyler, the president of Nevo, and asked if I would be willing to sell solar panels. I had no idea it was door to door. I didn't know anything about it. He just asked if I'd be willing to sell solar panels because a lot of those guys invested with him at the time. And I was like, yeah, why not? So he called Tyler right then and there and asked if I could get an interview for the next day. I pulled up to, at the time, Decca's warehouse in Houston, and did an interview with Tyler for like 30 minutes. He pulled up in his Raptor, got out, had all nice clothes on. I was mesmerized at first sight. Pulled me into his office and basically gave me the rundown on what it is that they do and how I could benefit from it. And the thing that he told me that kind of hooked me was we were just talking about being a setter at this point. I don't think he had much faith that I would do good from the look of me. And he told me that an average setter will get one deal a week. And on average, that one deal will pay out $1,500. So if I did one deal a week every week for an entire year, let's say I take off 6 weeks, that would mean that I would make about 70,000 at the end of the year. And my eyes lit up. I was like, holy shit, I can make $70,000 just from knocking doors. Um, and that was what got me basically. So he introduced me to who was going to be my manager at the time because Tyler was the regional at Decca at that point. Um, and it was Sterling, who's the VP of sales for Nevo now. And I kind of just started knocking. I had no idea what I was doing. They gave me the Taylor McCarthy videos or whatever to watch. I watched all those, did all the training that they wanted me to do. And then we just kind of started knocking. They put me on a schedule that I thought was normal at the time, but looking back, it was a rough schedule. I started in November, so it was getting dark pretty early already at that point. So they had us starting knock at like 9 a.m. We would knock at 9 a.m., take a break at 1 for lunch, and then go toward the rest of the day. And the reason I'm saying this is because in my eyes, that was a normal schedule. Like that was what I worked already at a regular job. So I just kind of assumed that that was what everybody did. So I kept that schedule for like 2 whole years and just didn't really question anything. After I became a setter, I had like 7 deals closed my first month, um, which again had no idea. I thought I wasn't doing enough because I'd been there for like 3 weeks or so, and I was doing better than everybody else in the office, but I just didn't feel like I was doing enough. So I started hitting training a lot harder. I would practice with myself in the mirror on the way to area, on the way back from area. When I had free time, I was watching videos. I was doing anything and everything I could to consume knowledge about door to door, about sales, about solar, about literally anything that had to do with what I was doing. And then my second month, I had 10 deals. So I was right at about two and a half a week or something like that, which is not bad for a setter. And just kind of kept the same schedule the entire time. So that way, my third month at when I was at Nevo, it was my last month as a setter, but first month as a setter at Nevo. I did 25 deals and not one of them canceled. So I made a ridiculous amount of money as a setter my third month and then became a closer. I think I made like 40K from that month as a setter. Um, and at that point, when I first started, I told myself, like, okay, I'm going to give myself 6 months. If this doesn't work out, then I'm going to go do something else. If it does, then I'll keep going with it for the next 6 months. And at that point, I was like, holy shit, like, I'm never leaving. Um, so I, at that point, started to become a setter, a closer, and started training for it. I kept the same schedule and everything. I really just could only think about why everyone else who was around me was not having the same schedule as me or wasn't working as hard as I was. Because I was like, you guys see these checks too. Like, this is ridiculous. Why would you not go spend every waking moment on the doors or training? What is wrong with y'all? Um, but then when I started closing, I got a taste of why everyone didn't have that schedule because I had I think I had about 30 appointments that I sat in. Um, I'm not talking like that were qualified that had both homeowners, just like 30 appointments I sat that month. And I only closed two of them. And I was like, this is a whole different ball game. Like I felt like at that point I was playing in the big leagues and I was not doing very good so far. Granted, from those two deals, I made like 25K. So I didn't have a bad month financially, but I did have a bad month competitively. I was last rung on the ladder. Like everybody else was doing way more than me. Even though I was just self-genning and I did make good money doing it, like I felt like a loser because I only had two deals and dudes who I knew were not better than me were having like 6 or 7 deals that month, self-gens. Um, so when all else failed, I kind of just went back to the basics, just started rewatching all the old videos I had watched, did all the trainings that I had done again, this time with closing, and just dialed in as much as I possibly could and kept that same schedule, which was um, the actual schedule I had my first year was I would wake up around 6 or 7, go on a run, usually a mile and a half, 2 miles, and then come back, eat breakfast, take a shower, watch videos, and then be on the doors by 9:30, 10 o'clock every day. And then I was a little extreme with it. I didn't take a lunch or stop for breaks or anything. From 9:30 to 10 until about 8 p.m. Every single day, with the exception of Sundays, I was on the doors. Like if I had to go to the bathroom, I asked a homeowner. If I needed water, I asked a homeowner. If I needed food, I asked a homeowner. Nothing could get me out of my area, no matter what. Like I was just, that was my office. That was what I did every single day. I took no breaks whatsoever. My thinking was, any break I take, if I go leave and go to the bathroom right now, the next door that I was about to knock on might leave, and that might have been a deal that I would have gotten had I not gone to the gas station and went to the bathroom or went and got some food or whatever. So I kept that schedule for the entire year, and it really didn't start to get crazy with the like checks coming in until like right after the summer. Like I had 25K that first month, and then probably like 15 15, 17, like somewhere in that range. And then August of 2023. Yeah, August of 2023. No, sorry. Yeah,
2021.
I'm tripping. No, I'm tripping. It was 2023. Um, August of 2023, I broke my record and at the time the Nebo record for deals in a month, which was I sold 29 self gens that month. And the next month, I had all of them install except for like 5 or 6. So I had a little bit over 20 self-gen installs all go in 1 month. And the month of October was when all those checks started to come in, basically. And my first check that month was $39,000 for the week. And then the second one was 26. The third was 30 something. And then the fourth was a little bit over 40, I think.
That's like a
So
hundred. That's like 120,000 plus. Yeah.
in 1 month, yeah, it was ridiculous. I had no idea what to do. And we were still posting the checks on like Instagram stories and stuff so people could see all of it. at that point was when it started to be like, holy shit, what is Maverick doing? Like, why is he getting paid like this? And that's when a lot of people started asking questions, like, what was I doing? I started to actually like get some recognition, do trainings. And then the next month is when I started running a team. I wanted to have proven success with just myself before I ever started to run a team. That way I could tell people, hey, this is what I did. This is what you have to go and do to be exactly like I am financially. Um, all in all, after that first year, I sold 120 deals and had about 90 installs. Um, all but seven or eight of them were self gens. So I made about $480,000 my first year, just self genning. And it once I saw like the thing for taxes come in, my 1099 at the end of the year, I literally was like, holy shit. Like I felt like I had discovered fire, you know. Um, I didn't really know what to do with myself besides put it all into real estate. So I started investing in real estate a little bit that year. I got my first two apartment buildings and a shopping center that year. Um, and it wasn't like oh, I go get a loan and go buy a single family home or anything like that. Like I had to have 50,000 minimum to invest with the people that I was investing with. And in some cases for certain projects we had to have 100K minimum. So that year I poured almost all the money that I had made into real estate. Um, and that was my goal was to have a real estate investment done, but before I was 21, and I got it 2 months before I turned 21, with Robbie, an apartment building in Corpus Christi, Texas, with like 130 units. I put the minimum in whatever I could and like emptied out my bank account. So even though I was doing really well and I had a decent amount of money in my bank account, I emptied all of it into this real estate investment. And then for the summertime, for peak sales time, I guess, I was broke. I had no money whatsoever. I was driving my mom's old Mazda CX-6, like hatchback with no AC, no windows, one door handle. Like I was slumming it for a little bit. Um, and then my goal was to get to the next real estate investment as soon as I possibly could. So the next real estate investment I did was 2 months later. So I had in 2 months gotten another 50K, invested that into another property. And then after that, it was just rinse and repeat. Like, how many times can I do this? How often can I do it? How much money can I put into this project or whatever? And that was kind of how my first year went. That was what I guess set me up for the next year and really defines like how I've been in solar, like what my objective has been, and what the plan is for this year as well.
So to date, how much do you think you've invested into real estate at 23 years
Um,
old?
about 500,000. Um,
500,000?
yeah, about I have five projects or five properties now. Um, the one apartment building in Corpus, which is 138 units. A building, an apartment building in Houston, which is about 80 units, a shopping center in Houston, which has 20 or so businesses that rent space from it. That one was my biggest one. I put like 150K into that one. And then some office space in the Woodlands, which I think I only did like 70 on that one, but it's like 2 blocks of office space that businesses rent. And then there's a plot of land in Waco that's like right next to Baylor that we're building a shopping center on. That one was like a little bit smaller, where we go and develop the land, build the shopping center, and then sell it off. But all in all, I think I have a little bit under $500,000 invested into real estate now.
And just so like everybody watching this right now who like we all have the same opportunity to go out there this year, earn 250, 500, whatever it is, as long as we're able to go out there and work those hours every single day, right? Learn the skill set, learn how to set, learn how to close. Like we can all knock doors to buy doors. But just for people that maybe like don't know kind of like what that looks like, what do those returns look like? for somebody that goes and puts $500,000 into real estate over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, what do those returns look like? Does that double your money? Is it like you get like 20% returns? Can you kind of explain that?
Yeah, so I don't do like a lot of people when they do real estate, they like to do short term things in general. Like a lot of people flipping for a while was really popular. You know, you go buy a house, you fix it up, you sell it within the next couple months so you can make all your money back and have a quick turnaround. I don't do anything like that. I do long-term holds. So most of the holds that we do, most of the properties that we do are going to be like 10 years. So the goal is with all of these properties, I invested in all of them at a time when the interest rates were pretty high. Granted, they were still really good deals. We still get cash flow every single quarter. So we get paid quarterly, just from the rental income, the cash flow that comes in, and you get whatever your percentage of ownership is, you get that percentage of the profits, obviously, every quarter. So the cash flow that comes in every quarter is not anything like crazy. Like for my first three properties or my first two properties, I get about 1,500 every quarter, and then my third one is like 2,300. The fourth one's like 1,700, and the last one I don't get cash flow at all. That one's just a buy and sell, but that one's a little bit like a 2, 3 year thing instead of a 10 year. Um, what the goal is with these is since they're long term holds, it's buy low, sell high, essentially. We bought them at a time where interest rates were pretty high, and we're waiting. We weren't necessarily waiting for anything to come up or go down. We wanted to cash flow those properties until we can either refinance to a lower interest rate and pull out a big lump sum of money. And that would be the first time that we'd actually get that big lump sum. Otherwise, we're just cash flowing. And then the second time would be when you sell the property 8 to 10 years later. All in all, if like the projections on my investments that I did, the first few were like 50,000 over a 10 year period would net you like somewhere in the range of 250 to 300,000 over that time with cash flow, refinances, selling the property, everything. So for me, I don't I don't know enough about real estate to tell you, you know, you should do this, you should do that, or whatever. I have people that I trust that I invest with because they know what they're doing. They've been investing for a really long time, and total honesty, like if I get an opportunity from someone else to invest in real estate, I take it to the guys that I know and just say, "Hey, is this a good investment or not?" I'm not asking them, "Should I invest in it?" I'm asking them if it's a good investment or not. That way I know where to put my money. And as far as returns go, like I feel like the numbers that I just gave are pretty standard for all the projects that I do. Um, Besides maybe the last one is, like I said, more of a, we bought the property, we develop the property, we build a shopping center, and then we sell it off. So that one is expected to bring in a little bit more, but there is no cash flow. So I don't make any money on that one until we sell it. But I invested, I think, like 70 or 80 into that one. So that one is supposed to get me a little bit more. I think somewhere in the range of like 400.
That is awesome. So you're almost cash flowing close to like 70-ish, maybe up to $100,000 a year right now, just from putting in $500,000 a year or $500,000 over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean it's nice to have it. Like I don't really rely on the cash flow necessarily. Most of that money just goes into an account that's going to go get reinvested into more real estate. So the goal is to build up from what Tyler says, Tyler Bradshaw. Um, the the numbers work out to be where if you have about 2.5 million invested in real estate, whatever kind of real estate that is, that should cash flow you about a quarter of a mil a year in just passive income. That amount of money coming in passively is enough to support everything that you want to do. And if that isn't enough to support what you do, then you need to change what you're doing. But once that happens, then I can just use that money to fund whatever I want. If I want to go keep investing and put that money into more investments and build my net worth and, you know, whatever, then I can do that. If I just want to get to that point cash flow that money and then go start a business or something, then I can do that as well. So the goal for me with solar and all of this stuff in general is to get to that point, get to 2.5 million invested into real estate so I can have that passive income coming in and then go do what I really want to do. Start a business. I want really want to run a baseball academy, but whatever I want to do at that point is probably whenever when I'll look at reevaluating things.
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to think that you've been able to accomplish what so many people's goal is to be able to accomplish, right? And kind of like what you're talking about with what Tyler said, it's like $2.5 million invested. Like everybody watching this right now, like you can do that over the next 5 years, right? If you're going all in, and if you're doing what you did, which is you learned the scripts, you went out there, you worked every single day, your habits, your routines were in place and it's just like you just did the work, right? Where so many people might spend maybe too much time studying and like not getting out in the field and like learning and like getting their stuff kicked in. It's like you went out there and you made it happen, and it's interesting too because I see so many similarities between my story and your story because it was like my parents introduced me to this guy Hugh, and Hugh introduced me to this guy Tom, and now I'm out in California selling solar. And if I would not have made those just two connections, like I would not be on this call with you right now, and you probably wouldn't either, right?
Right.
And so sometimes it's like it's not the first guy you meet, it's like the second guy you meet, and then it's not even that guy. It's like, Robbie introduced you to Tyler, and then
Yeah.
Tyler was the one that really put you on, and now you're here, and you literally have like the whole world ahead of you, and you're in a spot now that maybe some people might not be able to get to until they're in their 40s,
Hmm.
because we are able to earn so much money in this incredible industry. So, yeah, it's super cool to hear that story and hear how you actually went out and you took advantage of it. Driving your mom's car with no AC. So many people go out there and you see people buying Lamborghinis and all these different vehicles, and like they're not investing into assets, right? And yeah, it's kudos to you, dude. It's super inspiring, and hopefully everybody watching this right now, you guys are taking notes. And the biggest thing I'm hearing is like you got to have somebody that you trust, because that's something that Tyler talks about too. He's like, dude, I could go out and I could get some single family homes or some duplexes, but then like you're having to manage that, you're having to talk to tenants, whereas he would rather just offload the money to the
Yeah.
professionals that are able to get even better returns, and then we can focus on what we do best, which is bringing in more money to be able to invest it again.
Yeah. He always talks about protecting your time. That was a big thing that he preached to me whenever I first started investing in properties. Um, right now, the opportunity that we have in solar and have had for the past few years is unlike anything else that's out there. I mean, you can go look at any other sales industry in the country, and they're not making commissions like we do. And for that reason, whenever I was talking to him about real estate, the biggest thing he preached to me and why I invest like I do is because I want to protect my time. My time is better spent. I make more money per hour or per year, whatever you want to call it, knocking doors and selling solar. I'm not going to make that kind of money doing real estate or anything else for that matter. So that's why the goal is to get to that 2.5 million invested, because if I can, with the way that I invest, I don't have to do anything. I literally make the money, I wire the money to whoever it is that I'm investing with. They buy the property, and then I get quarterly cash flow, or a refinance or selling of the property, whatever it may be. Um, it was pretty clear once I started like actually getting those giant checks from doing solar, what he meant by protect your time. It's your time is the most valuable thing that you have, and if you don't protect your time, then you could end up just kind of sitting there and doing nothing, or going and looking into real estate thinking that you could somehow make the kind of money that you would be doing in solar with real estate or anything else. And that's just not the case. Until the opportunity is gone with solar, that's what I'll be doing, and I'll be pouring all of my money into real estate, hopefully getting to that 2.5 million invested before I'm done with solar.
Yep. You and I also had a similar story with like how we first started. You said, I'm going to give it 6 months, and if it works out, I'll keep going. If not, and obviously it worked out for you. And kind of same thing for me. I was like 100 days. If I can make $50,000 in 100 days, I'll keep going. And I really struggled for my first 90 days. Didn't make any money. I got 5 deals. They did not install. I was with a bad installer in California at the time. But then I came out to Texas, just like you, with Deca, and was able to earn that $50,000 in 101 days. And I did it the last 11 days by coming out as a setter, getting 2 deals, and then coming up the next week as a closer. And did 13 deals, 8 or 9 of them installed, and was able to earn 45 from that and 5 from that. So for everybody watching, it's like you might not get it right away, but if you do what I did, if you do what Maverick did, and you do the trainings and you learn the sales process and the techniques, like you're going to be able to have success. And maybe you'll be able to have it way faster than us if you're able to go out there and listen to what Maverick's about to teach you guys about his process and his techniques. And we like all the resources are available out there. You guys can watch Taylor McCarthy, Snapper Academy. There's real sales dynamics. There's a bunch of information out there, but then you got to actually go out there and you have to apply it too, right? So I'd love to hear from you, Maverick. What are some like techniques, processes that you have for how you approach building trust with homeowners, with potential clients? Because I think that's the biggest thing that we kind of face in the industry is, when we're knocking on somebody's door, their guards all the way up. They don't trust us yet. So it's our job to build that trust, get them to know us, like us, trust us, and then we can go in there and explain to them what we're doing. So what are some ways that you're able to build trust and rapport with homeowners in order for you to be able to get in home and then sell them solar?
Yeah, so on the doors, especially, I just try to make it a conversation. I do the same thing when I'm in house. You want it to be a conversation about solar rather than a sales pitch, obviously. But especially on the doors, you got to be quick. You can't beat around the bush. Like um, you've got to make it a conversation almost as soon as that door is open. Otherwise, they're just going to think, "What are you doing here? Like, what are you selling?" And then as soon as you tell them what you're doing, they're going to tell you to leave. Whether they've looked into solar or not, whether they're interested or not, if they don't trust you, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get that deal. So for me personally, um, the first thing that I always look for is something in their driveway, their front yard that I can see from their windows. If they have kids, if they have dogs, if I can tell that they spent a larger amount of time doing their lawn than most of the other neighbors have. I can tell they have a project car. Any of those things are things that I'm genuinely curious about. I like people. Like I want to know more about people. I'm huge in psychology. So I want to be able to talk to them and see what makes them tick. That's just something I like to do, not just in sales, but just in general. Um, so I'll ask about those things. My favorite line that I'll use is I am here for a specific reason, I promise, but I have to talk to you about this, whatever it is. The car, the lawn,
Hmm,
whatever.
that's a
Um,
good one.
I love doing that because it shows them like, yeah, I am going to talk about something else. Like I am here for a reason, but this is sick. So I've gotten a lot of people, especially with the cars, I've gotten a lot of people to be able to trust me like that because at that point I'm a human being. I want to talk about something that I think is cool and that they have and they love obviously as well. And then we'll talk about it for a little bit. And typically I won't get in with those kind of people. I won't get into the like actual pitch until they ask me to. They'll be like, so what are you doing here, man? Or like, what are you selling? And then once I've given them their time to talk and ask them about something that they care about, they feel like they should give me the time to talk and talk about whatever I'm here for. So those are the easiest ones. Like if they have something in their yard that I can just genuinely click and connect with them on. Um, Otherwise, if there's not anything like that, like if it's a bland house with a bland yard with bland cars, there's no kids, no dogs, no nothing. Like yesterday, I had one, or no, sorry, not yesterday. 2 days ago, I had an appointment that I had set. Dude's got no cars in his driveway. His house is tan. His garage is white, just like every other house in the neighborhood. He has, even when he opened his door, I couldn't see any pictures on his wall. There was nothing. His windows were covered. Like he had nothing out there. But he had on like some pajama pants and a nice shirt. So in my head, I was like, oh, he's working from home. Like no one sees his lower half, so that's why he's got the pajama pants on. I'm like, oh, I know what you're doing, man. Like I said this to him. I was like, I know what you're doing, man. Like you got the nice shirt and tie on. Like you must work from home all the time. What do you do for work? And he's like, yeah, you got me. And then he goes into what he does for work. Like, I had literally no ammunition whatsoever until he stepped out. But just seeing and noticing those two things, I was able to not necessarily disarm him, but in a way, um, get it to the point where he just felt like he could talk to me, and not have to wait for a sales pitch or something like that. So I like to just show people that I'm human on the doors. It's harder to be mean or a dick to someone that you know is a human being. Like, everyone wants to be treated nicely, and everyone likes people that are more similar to themselves. So I try to make the conversation geared toward how we are similar, and use those one-liners like "I'm here for a reason," or something like that, to just kind of break the ice and show them that I'm a human being.
So you're talking about soft skills, right? It's like one thing to be able to like learn the presentation and the warranties and like how to sign interconnections and the install agreement and like learn the different finance companies and like how to get permission to operate. But it's another thing to be able to like actually get somebody to trust you. And I love that line of, hey man, I'm here for a specific reason, but like that car is sick, or like you're like talking about their house, or they're in sports, or like whatever it is, right? There's like 100 things that you could talk about, but
Right.
those are the main things that you're bringing up, and those are soft skills, right? Getting people
Hmm.
to let their guard down and build rapport with people, and so that is all going to help you guys out with going out there and literally 10xing your sales. Because if people don't look at you like a human being and like they can like sense that commission breath and like you're just there for a sale, you guys are going to get literally way more sales if you're able to build those soft skills. And then you're going to be able to go out and turn sales that might not even be a sale into a sale because you've got those soft skills. So I'd love to hear, Maverick, if you have like a story of a sale that was maybe like your most challenging sale, and how you applied those soft skills in order to turn that maybe not even a sale into a closed deal.
Yeah, so it wasn't necessarily like a hard sale. It was very surprising that I got it. I didn't have any faith whatsoever that the dude that I was talking to was actually going to close and install, for that matter. But I walk up to this house that it didn't look run down from the outside or anything. It had a decent roof, but it had a little bit of tree coverage, and the there was no cars in the driveway. The sidewalk was cracked. Like, the yard was kind of like eh. So I was like, okay, let's just go see. So I knock on the door. Dude comes out, totally uninterested, like one of the most monotone people I've ever seen in my life. Just like straight faced. He asked me some questions, but no like real buying questions. Just kind of like what are you doing here? Like, oh, I've never heard of that before. And eventually, like, I got to the end of my pitch on the door, and in my head, I was like, absolutely no way he like wants to do this. There's no way. But I went for the close anyways, because why not? And he went for it. He gave me all his info, went and got his bill, um, came back out. We talked for a little bit longer and gave me all his stuff. And as I was leaving that house, I was like, "Man, there's no way that dude's gonna sit." Like, he was so uninterested. It didn't matter. And I'd seen the inside of his house, and I was like, no way he's passing credit, even if he does sit. So I went about my day. I set it for a next day at like 8 o'clock at night. And that was another thing. I was like, usually appointments that are set for 8 or 9 o'clock at night are iffy, anyways. But um, I went throughout my day, I think I had a deal that day or something. And then the next day I had all day appointments. I had 10, 12, 2, 4, 6, and 8 all day. So I had one or two appointments reschedule or cancel. So I ended up only having actually like three solid appointments that day. Otherwise, I was just knocking. I'd already closed two deals that day, and then at like 7:45, I was like, "Oh shit, I gotta go to this dude's house. Like, I'm gonna waste my time and go to his house." I was actually going to a birthday party that night. I was supposed to go to a birthday party that night, and I was like, "Should I just skip and go to the birthday party? Should I go show up at this dude's house? Whatever." So I go to the dude's house. No lights on whatsoever. It's dark as all get out. Again, no cars in the driveway. And I was like, damn, like, I'm not even gonna build a proposal. Like, I'll just submit for it, and then, I'll go knock the door. So I submitted for the proposal. Hadn't even come back yet. I went and knocked his door. Dude opens the door. His name was Herbert, which was that's a whole other thing. But
Herb.
um, he came and opened the door. He's like, "Yeah, yeah, what's up?" And I was like, "Well, I'm here to sit down with you. Like, I got the proposal back, or I got the design back. I just rushed over here from the neighbors down the street. Did you know blank and blank? They're going to be going solar with us." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I know both of them. They're nice people. They're on the neighborhood group chat or whatever." I was like, "Cool. Like, do you have a place, a corner of a table or something we could sit at to actually get down to it?" And he's like, "Yeah, you know what? Go ahead, come in." And in my head, I was like, "Holy shit! Like, this is actually going to sit."
We're getting it
Now,
home.
yeah, there's absolutely no way he passes credit though. Like, I walk into his house, the whole, like carpeted stairs, right? The whole first like three stairs, no carpet, just like unsanded wood, and then the rest of the stairs had carpet. And then there was a hole in the wall. There was trash everywhere. There was like kids' toys all over the place. There was a giant, like dark green fish tank because of the algae that had been growing. I could see the kitchen, trash everywhere. I was like, all right, no way in hell these people pass credit, but whatever. I'll do the appointment. Like he let me in. Obviously, it's not, unsavable. So this was back when I was selling loans, and with loans, I would check credit right at the beginning. But for some reason with this dude, I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna give him the numbers and then get out of here. Like, I'll ask him if he wants to check credit, see what he's at. And I asked, and I was like, yo, do you know where your credit score's at? This isn't something that's available to everybody. We have to make sure that you're going to pay your bills. And he was like, yeah, I'm good on credit. I was like, I know you're lying to me. I know you don't have the credit score. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I go through the rest of my pitch. Um, I get down to the very end and I had showed him all the numbers. He had like an 18 kilowatt system. I had him at like a
Big one.
3.5, something like that. And he also wanted a whole home generator. So at this point, the loan is like
Over 100.
120,000. Yeah, it's like 120, $125,000 loan. Um, and again, I'm like, yeah, we can run it up as much as we want because you're not going to pass credit, so it's not going to matter. So I get through everything, and then his wife comes in the door. And I
Okay.
was like, I didn't even know he had a wife. He didn't say anything about it. I mean, he obviously had kids. I just figured his wife wasn't in the picture anymore. He just takes care of the kids. The wife starts screaming at me in the middle of the
Oh
appointment
no.
about get out of my house. What are you doing? You're trying to scam us. Like all the typical, smooth brain bullshit that you hear from homeowners.
Yep.
And she's like, she actually like tried to grab my shirt and like lift me to get out of the house. And I was like, nah, I'm planted on the stool right here. Like your husband actually likes this. If there's any chance that either one of y'all has credit, I'm getting this deal. So eventually the husband calms her down and is like, no, 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 this is a good thing. Like this is awesome. Listen to this, and this. He told her about the savings. He told her about how they were going to be able to pay the exact same as what they were paying with the electric company, but now they have 115% of their power and a whole home generator. He loved it.
And the
At
savings,
that
I mean,
point,
on an 18 kilowatt, that's like they're saving like 60,000 plus dollars over the
oh
course of the
yeah,
next 25 easily.
oh, yeah. And like I said, they had a whole home generator in there too. So they not only get full home backup power at any point in time where the grid goes down, but they have 115% of their power. And it's like $2. It was like $2 under what they were paying on average with Reliant every month. So he loves it. And he recognizes like this is a great deal. And I had told him straight up, like, I don't usually see deals like this because this was as dealer fees were starting to get high. And he goes, he's talking to his wife about how good of a deal it is. And that was the first time I realized that he understood exactly what I was talking about. Like he understood all of it. And that's when I started to get a little excited, like, oh shit, this might actually happen. Like he's a smart dude. Maybe he wasn't lying about credit.
This is way better than the
Again,
birthday party.
yeah. So I'm like 2 hours in already at this point. It's 10:15 or something. And he calms the wife down, explains it all to her, and he's like, I'm gonna do this. And I'm sitting in like the other room. I can hear him talking. He's like, I'm gonna do this. do you want to be on it or not? She's like, well, this is my house too. You can't do it without my permission. He's like, bullshit. My name is on the house. I pay the mortgage. I'm doing this whether you like it or not. And I was like, damn. Okay. So he brings the wife back in, has me explain all of it to her, and she's on board. And I was like, well, shit, we might actually get this done. I go to check credit. I'm like, just before we check credit, do you mind go ahead and pulling up, what your score is for me? And he pulls it up. It's like 840.
Really?
I was like, damn. Yeah, I underestimated the hell out of this dude. So great credit. He qualifies right away with, I think I was using Mosaic at the time. His wife like refused to sign the documents right then and there, even after he had already signed his. So he took her phone, signed the documents for her, and then gave her
Smart.
phone back and made her go sit on the couch. And then we finished up everything and took all my site survey pictures. They got installed 2 weeks later.
Unreal. Yeah. And that's where we
Yeah,
talk about just staying cool in the pocket and assuming that every single sales or every single person like is going to be a sale, right?
you
Because you
never
easily could
know.
have walked away from that, and I'm sure you made good money, but more importantly, like you put them in a way better position, right? Like with the utility rates going up since then, I'm sure they've already gone from like saving $2 or whatever it is a month, and now they're probably saving like 20, 30, $40 a month, and it's just going to get better every single year, right? So
Yeah.
that's an awesome story. And just to tell everybody on this call watching this podcast, it's like just assume that every single sale is going to be a sale, and you'll run into those. Not necessarily like a laydown, right? I'm sure that wasn't like a laydown, but just somebody that if you wouldn't have had the faith that they're going to be a sale, like if you wouldn't have done your job and shown up, like you wouldn't have been able to put them in a better situation. You wouldn't have been able to help another homeowner. So I love that. So other questions I could ask you, Maverick, how do you stay positive? How do you maintain momentum during like slower periods, or maybe when like you're facing rejection? We call it the solar coaster, right? Right now we're January 2025, which this year is going to be the best year of our life. But a lot of companies they only do like the summertime program. For us, we go full time. But what are some like tips or some tricks that you have in order to maintain momentum during like slower periods?
Yeah. Mostly mine, like I said, I'm kind of extreme when it comes to being on the doors. I was very, very competitive growing up, and my dad was always on my ass about everything. He would always, like, when it was slow times in baseball or it wasn't going the way I wanted it to go, he would talk to me like I talk to myself now. And how vulgar am I allowed to get? Like, am I allowed to
All the
say
way.
what I would actually say to myself? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so especially like my first and second year, there was always slow times. Like I said, my best months didn't happen until Q4 of both of my last, well, all of the last 3 years, I think. Um, Mostly when I'm on the doors is when it starts to get to you. Like when you're in house and you're setting an appointment or whatever, you don't think about the bad times, but when you've gone 40 doors with very little answers and the few answers that you do have just shit on you, um, those thoughts start to creep in for sure, where it's just like, what am I doing? Like, should I just go home? This neighborhood sucks. Like, today's a wash, whatever. And I would have those thoughts too, but I wouldn't say it out loud. Like, I would just think it. And then I would talk to myself out loud. I literally would be on a doorstep having those thoughts and just say out loud to myself, stop being a pussy. Like, stop being a bitch. You know the checks that you could have if you just do what you know you need to do. So just do what you know you need to do. Don't be a bitch. If you let this one thought right now control the rest of your day, then you could have run into two or three deals that you would have had you not left the doors. And I've seen it a couple times where I had more than a couple times now, but I had like it was like 7:45, 8 o'clock during the summertime. Sun doesn't go down until about 8:30, but I was already starting to get ready to go. Like I was like, okay, yeah, you know what, it's time to leave. It's getting dark, whatever. And I just kept telling myself, one more door, one more door, one more door. The rule that I would have for myself would be to like I would say, okay, I'm gonna knock five more doors. If I set an appointment at any one of these doors, I have to go for five more. If I don't, like this is usually when it's already dark. If I don't, then I'll go home. No appointments for the next five doors, I'll go home. Somehow, every time I said that to myself, I would get at least one more appointment. And a couple of those times I would get one more appointment. I'd be like, all right, five more doors. I'd get another appointment in those five doors, and then another appointment in the next five. And I'd have like four appointments in an hour because I just kept going on and on and on and on and had that rule for myself until I hit five doors in a row where I didn't get anything after it's already been dark, then I would go home. So I implemented some rules for myself, but mostly it was self-talk. Like I just at that point I was watching a lot of David Goggins stuff, and he talks to himself a lot. He sounds kind of crazy when he talks to himself, and I knew
Lock
that
in.
I knew I
Yes.
sounded and looked a little crazy too, but it kind of just gave me that I don't know, that edge I needed where I was like, no one else is talking to themselves like this. No one else is doing what I'm doing. No one else is knocking at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night during the summertime. No one else is knocking five more doors because they got one more appointment. Like no one else is doing the shit that I'm doing. No one else is making $40,000 weekly paychecks right now in October. That's not what people are doing. I'm the 1%. I know what I need to do to be successful. All I have to do is go and do it. And I can't be a bitch. Those were some of the things that I would say to myself whenever I had those thoughts creep in.
Kind of cool to think too, like for everybody watching this, it's January, almost February 2025, and it's like that February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Like if you guys apply yourselves and like learn what you need to learn and then you show up every single day, you can be having those incredible life-changing months in October. You guys can be having them this summer. But like you're talking about, like Grant Cardone talks about it, right? You got to kill your inner bitch. And it's like, doing that self-talk every single day, and then like we'll have it where it's like 6:30, 7 o'clock, guys want to go to the bar or whatever, like meet up there like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and it's like, guys, let's just do 20 more doors, right? And you'll be knocking with a group of like five or six guys, and like they're like, yeah, 20 more doors, right? 20 more doors. So then like 7:30, 8 o'clock rolls around, everybody's got a couple more appointments, and then it's like, all right, guys, 20 more doors. And they're like, dude, no, like we're going, like we're out, right? So then it's just like you and like two guys maybe, right? And you're like, all right, let's go get it, right? 20 more doors. We come back in an hour, right? We've all got another appointment. It's like, hell yeah, let's go. And then it's like, no, no, no. Like 20 more doors. And it's like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And they're like, dude, you're crazy, right? So then it's just you. And it's just you hitting another 20 doors. And you go and you get another couple appointments. And then it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock. You go to the bar. Everybody's been there for like an hour or two, whatever, and you've got more appointments than like everybody combined, and it's just like that one more door mindset that like most people aren't willing to do. But if you do that, like you're setting yourself up for way more success by going through to the finish line. And it's not done like when it's like late, it's done when you get the job done, right? And if like you
Yeah.
don't have at least two or three appointments set up for the next day, like you haven't done your job. If you haven't sat in home two or three times today, like you haven't done your job. And so love that mindset. I think that you've been able to do what you have done because mostly of your mindset, right? And like I like am just thinking about like when like before you even got into solar, and like you heard about your dad, and like dude, life's already hard enough, right? COVID's happening. Would you say that that did inspire you to go out there? Was that part of your why and like your mission to go out there and like make your family proud?
Yeah. So it wasn't the first time something like that had happened. It was like I think when I was 12 was whenever he got diagnosed the first time. And that one was a little bit worse than the second time. He had stage four colon and liver cancer when I was 12. And they didn't think he was going to live. They gave him like a 3% chance to live if he did like 14 rounds of chemo and did an experimental surgery. So, fortunately, he did. He made it through. And then going back a little bit, my dad was a big military guy. He was in the military for about 10 years. He's the toughest person I've ever known in my entire life. He's the reason I am the way I am today. But specifically, there was a couple moments where it was like, holy shit, like how did he do that? And one of those moments was he had just finished He did 8 rounds of chemo, and then he had an experimental 13-hour surgery with like 8 different incisions in him the first time around. And then he did 6 more rounds of chemo after the surgery. And he finished all of it like July 28th or 29th, right? My birthday's on the 3rd of August. For my well, not for my birthday, but when I was 12, there's this giant tournament. It's an invite only tournament. It's 10 grand per person to play in this tournament for baseball. For like, we had 12 kids. We had to put up 120K to just play in this tournament. So, first of all, it was, looking back, incredible how they came up with that kind of money after my dad had just gone through all that and had to basically go into huge amounts of medical debt to pay off that surgery and all the chemo. But my dad had finished chemo like 5 days before this trip. We had planned this trip for like 3 years now, and he wasn't going to be able to go. At the very last second, and he was the head coach too. At the very last second, he bought a plane ticket, got on the plane, and literally 4 days after finishing his 14th round of chemo, he flew to New York and played at Cooperstown with us, or coached
Wow.
at Cooperstown with us. And he, my dad is a big dude. He's like 6'3", probably 250. At that point, he was 175 pounds, and he hadn't been able to eat or drink or do anything normally for like the past 6 months. And somehow he he made it to Cooperstown. He coached the entire thing, and we ended up getting seventh out of like 200 teams that got invited. We were the seventh best team in the country that year. Um, so things like that were things that showed me kind of what's possible. The like every doctor my dad had told him don't go. Every person in our family told him it was stupid for him to go. Um, my mom even thought it was stupid for him to go, even though he had been looking forward to seeing me play in this tournament for like the last 3 years. And he just was unwilling to accept it. He was just like, absolutely not. I'm going. I don't care what it takes. He went and got a shot. I don't even remember what it's called at this point, but it's a shot that helps your immune system, and you have to give it to yourself in your stomach, and it's an expensive ass shot. He's like, I'm gonna go do this thing, take this shot, that way I can go, and that's gonna be the end of it. I don't want to hear anyone else talk about it. And he made it happen. And then the second time around wasn't as hard. I was a little bit older, it was a little bit easier to deal with, but seeing him go through all that again was rough. So my goal from the very beginning with investing, not even solar, just like investing, looking into the stock market, everything, is I want to be the one in my family that changes my family tree. I want to be the one in my family that if that happens to someone else, I can write them a check for $100,000 and it won't even make a dent in my wealth because that's the money that they need to go and get the best care that they possibly can and take care of themselves so that they can live a longer life. That was my main motivation, and as I've gone, it's you know evolved and turned into basically just I want to be the provider of everyone in my family for not just this generation or the next, but for the next 10, 15, 20 generations. I want to create enough wealth in my lifetime that no one in my bloodline will ever need or want for anything for the rest of the time.
Dude, you got me, bro. I mean, I'm just like impact over income, right? And you're thinking big. You've got the big why. I think for everybody watching this right now, it's like if you're going through something as difficult as you've gone through, it's like that's good, right? And it's, I think for me, it's like we have our nonprofit Battle of the Gains, and it's like helping people overcome battles to make gains in life. It's like if you're going through something hard right now, like it's not happening to you, it's happening for you, right? But I'm just like thinking like from your dad's perspective of like, dude, like I'm going no matter what. Like I'm gonna be there. And I mean, I'm sure for you that's just like a feeling of like you can never quit in your entire life. And that was one of the things that I noticed about you when I first met you was you were like, dude, I'm going to be a billionaire. You know, that's what you said. And I don't hear that from a lot of people. But then it's like, who else is out here at your age doing what you've done, right? And it's like it's cool because everybody watching this right now, like we've got the opportunity to do the same thing that you've done. But if we don't have that right mindset, and if we don't like go out there and actually do what we need to do, you're never going to be able to be in a position like where you're at, right? So I'd love to hear, Mav, like what would you say are the top three things that people watching this right now can do in order to change their life in 2025 in the solar industry, in order to go out there, have those record breaking months, in order to go out there and be able to invest it to create generational wealth. What would you say are the top three things that people need to do in order to be successful in the solar industry this year?
Probably the first and biggest one for me was to change my mindset. Um, I read I read this book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and it was a perspective changer for me. One of the things that I got out of that book was there is always someone who is outworking you. There is always someone who is doing more than you, who is more productive, who is better at this or better at that, or they're training more than you, or they're doing whatever it is more than you are. They're outworking you. If you operate with that mindset, then you will work harder than 99% of the rest, 99% of the population. That was what I did. No matter how I went throughout my day, the biggest thing I would tell myself is there is someone working harder than you. And the only times I ever slipped up on my work ethic or, taking time off or whatever was when I started to believe that I was working harder than everybody else. When I felt like I was working harder than everyone else, that's when I started to take time off. Like, okay, well, I could take this day off or that day off because, I worked harder than everybody else did for the past 2 weeks. That was the mistake that I made that I've had to realize. But the first thing, like I said, is change your mindset. There's always someone outworking you. And if someone's outworking you, it doesn't matter how good you are, they will catch up to you eventually. Don't let anyone catch up to you. The second thing is be a human being. You can go work as much as you want and it will become repetitive. You will sometimes feel like a robot. I've had times where I've been pitching people and I'm saying words and having another conversation with myself in my head because I know the words so well that I probably sounded robotic. Like I, at the time, thought that I was doing everything I needed to do, but I was so detached from the situation that I probably sounded like a robot. And those are deals that I didn't get because I wasn't doing the right thing. Um, be a human being. Still have experiences. Don't burn yourself out. Take a little bit of time off here and there to keep yourself. If you're just constantly working all the time, 24/7, for the last 6 months of my first year, I worked 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. I had no other experiences outside of solar. I just had solar. I just had knocking doors. I just had closing deals. So I started to become a little bit out of touch. I didn't have, like, people would mention certain things that I didn't know about that was going on in the world because I didn't care about it. I would just go about my life every single day, knocking doors, selling deals. And then when people started to ask me about things that I didn't know were going on because they had happened within the last couple of months, um, that's when I started to realize, like, oh, okay, maybe I should actually learn about things that I can connect with people on. Because if you can't connect with people on things, then you can't be a human being because you won't be genuine about it. Um, so number two for me is being a human being. Learn how to connect with people, keep up to date with things that people care about, and make sure you talk about those things whenever you're selling them. Um, number three for me, number three is knowing that understand that you have to sacrifice. If you want to make that kind of money, if you want to have that kind of real estate, if you want to do the things that I've been talking about doing for the past hour or so, you will have to sacrifice and it will suck. The story that I told earlier is a perfect example of that. I was supposed to go to one of my friend's birthday parties, but I ended up being stuck in a house for 3 hours and got that deal. Now, I could have left. I could have just skipped that appointment and went to the birthday party, had fun, probably drank a little bit, whatever, and had a good time. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like, you should be able to go and do that. But if you want to have extreme success, you have to be extreme and you have to sacrifice things. And I didn't even go to that birthday party. I'm not friends with that person anymore. Not because of that specific event, but I'm not friends with that person anymore because for the next 6 to 8 months after that, I never hung out with them. I just worked all the time. The only people that I was friends with were people that I worked with. Otherwise, if I didn't work with you, I didn't spend time with you. I would see my family sometimes on the weekends, but otherwise, I was just working. And looking back now, I wish I would have known before I did all that what I was going to sacrifice. I'm still okay with sacrificing what I did to get to the point that I'm at right now. I'm not saying I would take that back or I regret it, but I didn't realize how much I would have to sacrifice relationship wise to go and do that. It's a lot, and no one really. I don't feel like a lot of people talk about that. You have to be willing to sacrifice relationships, your own fun. You can't go to birthday parties or all the regular holidays that people take off. You can't take off. Like realistically, the only days I ever took off were or the only days I do take off are the day before Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, the day before Christmas, Christmas, the day after Christmas, and New Year's Day. That's about it. Every other
That's
day out
it.
of the year, I'm working. So know what you're going to have to sacrifice. Be a human being, and don't be a bitch.
But if everybody watching this like knew what they would be able to accomplish over the next, couple of years, it's like that sacrifice is so worth it, dude. In order to have a
Yeah,
lifetime of freedom, to be able to hang out with who you want, when you want, where you want, literally be able to do whatever you want, like on your own terms. Like the that is the price of success, and it is sacrifice, and it is like you're saying those other two steps with the right mindset, and then being able to connect with people. But it's like it's worth it, right? Like how worth it is it?
absolutely.
Like
Yeah, I
imagine if you
mean,
wouldn't have made those sacrifices, and like you only had maybe like 5% of the success that you've had right now. Like it's worth it, right?
absolutely, it's worth it. The way I look at it is, I'm willing to sacrifice my 20s so that my 30s and my 40s are fucking awesome. I'm willing to sacrifice my 20s and my 30s so that the rest of my life and future generations um, have an awesome life. I'm willing to sacrifice my 20s, 30s, and 40s so that my entire family tree can have whatever they want for the rest of their lives. That's the way I look at it. If you only want to sacrifice a certain amount of things to achieve a certain amount of success, that's fine. It's not, you're not wrong or right for doing so. It's just what you want. But the sacrifice is worth it. If you want to have financial freedom, if you want to be able to give all the things to the people that you love, um, the sacrifice is worth it. Absolutely.
And you've heard that thing about like learn in your 20s, earn in your 30s, burn in your 40s. It's
I think
like
it's
we're
bullshit.
it's bullshit, especially in this industry, right? Like you're able to go out there and literally earn so much over these next couple of years so that you can do whatever you want in your 30s or 40s or 50s, right? And especially if you're focusing on like assets over liabilities, like you're going to be set up in your 30s, you're going to be set up in your 40s. So, dude, you inspired me on this podcast. I'm sure everybody else, guys, I'd love to hear in the comment section below, like your biggest takeaway from this podcast. Drop a like on this video if you guys were inspired. And Maverick, I'd love to hear the last question I've got for you. What does 2025 look like for you? Are you think, because you went out there, dude, and you said like 80, 90 installs. It's like you're like 90% there of your way to hitting a golden door. Do you see yourself hitting a golden door this year? Do you think
Yeah,
you can do it? Do you want to do it? Do you want to hit that 0.1% of the solar industry when like you were so close? Like you were like literally like right there. It's like just a couple more deals, maybe an extra couple 20, 30 hours. You 40 hours like you could have been there. Do you see yourself doing that this year? Do you want to hit the golden door in 2025?
Absolutely, I do. I committed to my team that I was going to do a golden door, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, I'm going to go work my ass off and do this. Like, the way I look at goals is I'm going to do everything in my power that I possibly can to go and make that happen. But I committed to my team that this year I would hit a golden door, so that's the goal.
What did they say when you said that?
Um, I think it was probably a little bit better of a response than most people get when they say they're going to go hit a golden door because I've been so close. But mostly they were just like, look, dude, if anyone can do it, you can, but you've got to build a team again. So I right now I'm just kind of self-genning in Houston. The rest of my team is in West Texas. So I'm just kind of building by myself out here. So I think the plan is to, or at least what I talked about with them, is to go and self-gen, build the bank account back up, start making some more real estate investments again, but all the while recruiting and building a team again because it's possible to hit a golden door with just self-genning, but improbable. That first year that I had 90, and the reason I know it's possible is because that first year I had 90 installs. I didn't start closing until March. Um, those were all just my own self-gen closes, and if I would have had January and February, I probably would have hit a golden door that year. So I know it's possible with just self-genning, but I want to be able to hit a golden door for one, but I also will be number one at Nevo again. And there's a couple guys at Nevo who have a pretty lofty goal this year that want to hit a golden door without self-genning, that want to do 200 deals, 200 setter appointments. So my real goal is to beat them. I don't honestly like getting a golden door is great, and that does mean I'm being super competitive. But I tend to focus on what's right in front of me, and those couple guys at Nevo that have that goal, I really want to beat them. And in order to do that, I'm gonna have to build a team. So that's mostly what I talked about, like kind of just game planning how I could actually do it. And I pretty much said like I feel like I could do it with just self-genning. If my
Yeah,
only
because if
goal
you
was to hit a golden door, but I want to I want to beat everybody else too.
because if you did two self gens a week, eight a month, times the next 11 months, it's like close to 90, right? Whatever eight
Mm-hmm.
times nine is. What is eight times? No, eight times 11,
72. 8 times 11, 88.
88. So then you would just need, if you're getting half a point with the sets, another 12, another 24. So it's like 24 from setters, which is super doable, right?
Oh yeah.
And then like two a week, or you do one a week, and then you double that up, right? Or triple that up.
Yeah.
But either way, dude, 1 year from now, January, whatever it is, like 22nd, 23rd, 2026, like how good are you going to feel when you're on stage getting a golden door and having Sam Taggart hand that to you in Utah at Door to Door Con 9?
It's gonna be awesome. I pulled him to the side after our event this past week and was just like I talked to Sam before. We actually were on the same flight to Peru a couple years ago, so I got to hang out with him a little bit. But I pulled him to the side and I was like, I was so close to hitting that shit my first year. It bothers me. So I will be on that stage at the end of the year, and it's gonna feel great. It's gonna feel great. It already feels better than it did last January. Last January I ran a shitty blitz and that didn't go well. So I feel a lot better
Yeah.
now than I did then. So
That's a solar coaster, but if as long as you're talking about what you're talking about there, Mav, with having the right mindset, being able to connect with people, be a human, and then like sacrifice, you can overcome that solar coaster every single day. And it's just that one more door mentality every single day. It's having a big purpose and mission behind what you're doing so that you're going out there every single day, realizing that it's bigger than yourself. You're paying homage to your family. You're wanting to be the one that creates, the generational wealth for your family. You want to be the one for your family And hopefully that inspires everybody that's watching this. Mav, we love you. We appreciate you for coming on this podcast. Thank you so much for sharing the golden nuggets. I genuinely am inspired by you, dude, since I met you from day one. And I'm excited to go to war with you this year and see what we can't do to go out there and be the greatest sales force on planet Earth, be the most trusted brand in solar, and just add as much value as we can for everybody out there that's doing the same thing, because there's literally tens of thousands of people getting into this industry, probably even just this year, right? And so we all have the same opportunity to go out there and change our life. And for people like you that are a veteran now, it's not time to slow down. It's time to ramp up even further, because it's still the best opportunity in the entire world. And as long as you're just willing to sacrifice for a couple of years, you're gonna have the best life that you could ever even fathom. So again, Mav, thank you so much for coming on, guys. We love doing these podcasts. Drop a thumbs up for Mav, and we'll see you in the next one. Let's go.